I'd like to thank Loyola High School and the Loyola High Alumni Association for selecting Paul to receive this honor this evening. I can't tell you how much it means to me, to Patrick, and to Paul's family, some of whom are with us here tonight, to have Paul recognized in this way. I'd also like to thank Paul's friends, some of whom have a connection with Loyola and some of whom don't, who are here to celebrate with us this evening. It makes this evening so much more special for Patrick and for me. As you've heard from Father Greg, Paul was one of the members of the Alumni Association who conceived of this dinner and of the Cahalan Award. And although he would emphatically say that he had done nothing to merit the recognition that he's receiving tonight, I know that he would be deeply touched to be in the company of tonight's other honorees and the honorees from years past. Loyola High was an important part of Paul's life. I think that being a man for others was something that just came naturally to Paul. But Loyola solidified his commitment to leading an other-directed life. Whether he was teaching, judging, mentoring, or being an incredible husband and father, it was never, ever about Paul. It was always about everyone else. When he was taken from us so suddenly, I and members of the family and friends asked how and why that could have happened. I don't know that I've ever figured out the answer to that question, but ultimately I decided to put it aside and to work to keep Paul's spirit alive by always trying to be just a little bit of what he was during his life. So I try to be more patient and even-tempered on the bench, and I do emphasize for a few of you in the audience here, try. I try to be a better mother, offering advice when it's needed, but letting Patrick follow his own path. And I try to nurture and mentor young lawyers and help them find the professional path that suits them. I know that a lot of others, inspired by Paul, have done the same thing. And as a result, Paul and the lessons that he learned at Loyola have spread throughout the community and have created countless men and women for others. And I, for one, cannot think of a better way to remember and celebrate his memory. Patrick and I miss Paul each and every day, and we thank you for helping us to remember his contributions to the community, this community, and to the broader Los Angeles community in such a beautiful fashion this evening. And now I know that Patrick would like to add a few comments of his own.
Thank you all for being here this evening. It really means a lot. My dad was the first one in his family to go to Loyola High School. He certainly wasn't the last one. Peter, here tonight, went to Loyola. Philip, his brother, went to Loyola. Patrick went to Loyola, his other brother. If Annie, his sister, had been a boy, she would have gone to Loyola too. When it came time for me to decide where I was going to go, there was really no question in my mind. I wanted to go to Loyola. But my dad didn't push me one way or another. It's pretty clear, though, where his preference might be. He was a member of the Alumni Council here. He talked often and fondly of Loyola, and he might have dropped a hint or two. But it was when I started here at Loyola that I really began to realize how deep his loyalty for this place really was, how much his Ignatian education had meant to him, how it shaped his career. That motto, being a man for others, I said in the video, it wasn't a thing here back when he was going to high school here. But the spirit and ideals embodied in it absolutely were. Trying to help those less fortunate than yourself, working for something beyond your own ambition and wealth, going out of your way to help, whatever form or shape that help took. Those values were instilled in Loyola graduates in the 1950s, just as they are today, and just as they are when I graduated. Many of you here tonight were my dad's friends, mentees, colleagues, classmates, could go on. And I've talked with a number of you over the past couple of years. How, when you spoke to him, it seemed like the only thing in the world that mattered was you and your concerns. How when he made a suggestion here or there, it meant all the difference. How he cared. One of his mentees described what his advice and friendship and his counsel meant to him over the years. He said, Paul's greatest gift was that he allowed so many to stand on his shoulders and see opportunity in the future, to see things that seemed so unattainable once. And although he received a number of awards, including this one tonight, it was the legion of young lawyers and judges, students of his, colleagues, that looked up to him and counted on his counsel that made him the towering figure and giant he actually was. The Paul Boland I knew was a little bit different. He was my father. We drove to school and worked together every day when I was coming to Loyola. During those 4 years, my dad and I grew very, very close. He forced me to listen to NPR. And he peppered me with questions about my day. He told me about his. He told me about cases I can't even remember today. He even pretended to care about sports for my mom and I. And since his death, I've tried to learn the stories from those who knew him as a teacher, as a mentor, as a judge. I'll tell you just one. He's actually here in the audience tonight. When a family friend named Morrow was in college at Occidental, my dad suggested they shadow him for the day, maybe explore a possible career in the law. Well, Dad picked him up at 7:30 a.m. and at Occidental, drove with him to court in his pretty beat-up Oldsmobile with melted crayon on the dashboard. He never liked fancy cars. Well, my dad introduced him to judges, research attorneys, got lunch with him in the judge's cafeteria, and you guessed it, Mario became a lawyer, and also served a stint as my dad's research attorney. He now reaches out to other young lawyers and does the same thing my dad did. That's the theme of every story I've heard. It's the same, that Paul Boland was a man who cared about others more than he cared about himself. Someone who always took the time to think of and care for others. Someone who worked for social justice and devoted himself to the law so that all of us could live in a fair and just society. It's amazing to think, and I'm getting a little bit emotional here, so bear with me. It's amazing to think that we think something so simple, being there for others, being a man for others, is unusual or not the norm. That when we find these qualities in someone who lives them every single day, it touches us so deeply and means so much to so many. It's something that is deeply Loyola and very much Paul Boland, and it was started right here. Thank you so much. He would have been so touched to receive this honor, and it would have meant the world to him, and it means the world to my mother and me. And thank you for allowing my dad, Paul Boland, to share in the stage with the other awardees tonight.